Emmett Kelly was getting ready to make a movie with the legendary Tony Bennett, until a short walk to his mailbox turned into a moment of tragedy that ruined everything. Many people find their work depressing, but Emmett Kelly made his living by being sad. Kelly was the original sad tramp clown, and he pivoted his Weary Willie character from the circus to Broadway, from motion pictures to TV. This clown even did opera. So what was there to be so sad about? A horrible betrayal by his own son, amongst many other things. Emmett Kelly was born on December 9, 1898, in Sedan, Kansas. Kelly's dad was as far from show business as you could get. The Missouri Pacific Railroad employed him as a section foreman, but Mr. Kelly had other dreams, and this meant uprooting the family to Texas County, Missouri. Moving to a farm wouldn't get Emmett Kelly closer to show business, but there would be one big advantage. Living near Houston, Missouri meant that Kelly could attend the circus. When he was 11 years old, he managed to visit 2 major circuses. It could be, at this young age, that something clicked with Kelly and the circus. Maybe he was already envisioning a future under the big tent. Unfortunately, his mom had other plans. If Kelly was already thinking of working in the circus, he certainly didn't tell his mom. Instead, she enrolled him in a correspondence course in drawing cartoons. This was the Landon School of Cartooning, and Kelly worked hard to develop his skills. Kelly's mom had set her son on a career trajectory of her choice. Kelly felt obligated to give it his best effort. When Kelly was 19 years old, he moved to Kansas City to get a job drawing cartoons for a newspaper. At this time, he developed a character he called Old Doobie, and the character was a tramp. He was doing what his mother had envisioned for him, but he still hadn't forgotten his own dream. He couldn't let go of the circus. While trying to start a career as a cartoonist, Kelly had actually found work in the circus. He even started to do some training. This was not in the safe world of clowning. Kelly was up at the top of the tent learning how to do trapeze. Now he had a big decision to make: pursue drawing or stick to his own dream of working in a circus. In 1920, he would make his decision. Kelly put cartooning on the back burner and decided to pursue a life in the circus. In 1921, he landed a job with Howe's Great London Circus in Mason City, Iowa. Kelly remembered the character he'd drawn back in Kansas City, the Tramp, and he decided to try making that character into a clown. He did a few performances and then dropped the Tramp idea altogether. He may have dropped the Tramp, but it would soon resurface in a surprising way. When the American Circus Corporation bought the circus where he worked, Kelly got a new assignment. He wouldn't be a clown anymore, but instead do a solo trapeze act. In 1923, Kelly was working with a circus family known as the Moores. Sisters Mitzi and Eva had a double trapeze act, and one of them caught Kelly's eye. Kelly fell in love with Eva Moore, and they tied the knot on July 21st, 1923. But they were more than just a married couple. The two started performing together on the trapeze. This went well until Eva got some surprising news. She was going to have to spend the next little while a little closer to the ground. You guessed it, she had a baby on the way, her pregnancy keeping her away from the trapeze. Emmett Kelly Jr. was born on November 24th, 1924. It wasn't long after they had their first child that things in America started to change. It was a troubled economy, and for many people, going to the circus was something they could easily give up to save money. Circuses across America were closing, and Kelly needed to keep his family fed. While he considered himself a trapeze artist, Kelly had to pivot his career and got back into clowning. By this time, the Depression had created a large mass of people, mostly men, living in poverty. Kelly saw these men in their ragged clothes, and they reminded him of the tramp he'd drawn so long ago. With that, Emmett thought it was a good time to bring Old Doobie back. On April 21st, 1933, Kelly was ready to introduce his tramp clown to audiences at the Chicago Coliseum. As it turned out, it would take a few years for the character to really take off. Kelly and Eva had a second child, Patrick. Around the same time, there was a shakeup with the ownership of the circus. Kelly got an offer to continue on, but his wife did not. This would prove to be a problem for their marriage. As a trapeze artist, dropping your partner could be a fatal situation. Luckily, Eva just wanted a divorce. This was very hard on Emmett, and for a long while he felt very, very sad. So sad, in fact, that he took out his sorrow into his character. The Tramp had already been blue, but now he went a few shades darker. Newly single, Emmett now had time to focus on his career and realized he needed a change. Kelly's Tramp clown was getting popular, and a newspaper writer named Hype Igo started calling him Weary Willie. Now, this name was not new. People used it years before to talk about nameless hobos roaming across the American landscape. Igo put the idea into Kelly's head that he could use the name for his character. Kelly took Igo's advice, and Weary Willie was born. Little did he know, but Willie was about to soar. In 1937, Kelly received an incredible offer. He was going to perform in London, England. For his first performance in Europe, Kelly really wanted something that would wow audiences. What he came up with was a bit where he tries to sweep a spotlight, which of course is impossible. Audiences loved it. It eventually became his signature bit, but there was one problem. It wasn't Kelly's own idea. Years before, a clown named Charlie Shorty Flem had already done it. And it wasn't as if he'd performed it in front of a handful of people. Flem had done it before for thousands at the Madison Square Gardens. This bit now belonged to Emmett, and it would take him to new heights of success. Thanks to that, Kelly was making a good living working as a clown in the UK. That was when something large and ominous put an end to it. By the late 1930s, World War II seemed inevitable, and Kelly was ready to head back to the States. As it turned out, this move was a real boost to his career. Upon returning to America, Kelly almost immediately got a break. He got an offer to appear on Broadway. The show was a musical called Keep Off the Grass, and it starred Jimmy Durante and Ray Bolger. Central Park was the setting for the musical, and Kelly's role was as one of several hobos in the park. Kelly had his work cut out for him. He had to stand out among all the other professional actors on stage. Unfortunately, Keep Off the Grass did not do well with critics and closed after just 44 performances. But there was a silver lining. One of the few positive comments critics made about the show was about Kelly. One critic said Kelly provided the one moment of an otherwise uninspired show. Certainly, this positive comment would cement Kelly's success. Standing out and Keep Off the Grass was good, but it didn't do much for Kelly's career. After the show closed, Kelly found himself working in noisy nightclubs as a tramp who drew cartoons. During his performances, he didn't speak at all, but he did become known for an amazing ability. In the time it took most people to write down their names, he could draw 8 cartoons. It seemed that Kelly would live out his days in a dreary nightclub, and then his luck turned around. After a year and a half of nightclub work, Kelly received an offer to work for the Cole Bros circus. The Cole Bros didn't hold back when describing the amazing clown. They called him the world's funniest clown, and they even made his triumphs in the UK seem a little more triumphant than they were. It's possible that the Cole Bros went a little too far in promoting Kelly. When the Cole Bros competitor, the Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey, saw the promotion of Kelly, they realized they needed him. In 1942, they were able to lure Emmett away from the Cole Bros and into their tent. But everything was not always great under the canvas at the Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey. In fact, it was downright dangerous. On July 6, 1944, Kelly was in the dressing room getting ready to go on, when he heard someone yell, "Fire!" When Kelly emerged into the big tent, he saw something he would never forget. Flames had engulfed the entire circus. Kelly knew in an instant that he needed to help the terrified spectators get out safely. But how could a clown handle a real life-threatening situation? Strangely, it was at this time that Kelly realized he was carrying a bucket of water. Kelly ran with his bucket to one of the generator wagons that had caught on fire. Just as he was emptying the limited bucket of water, a huge tractor roared towards him. The driver of the tractor didn't see Kelly and narrowly missed running right over him. Firefighters eventually put the fire out, but Kelly would soon not forget these harrowing events. In the end, the accident ended 168 people's lives and injured another 700. Kelly saw things that had a deep impact on him. There was the temporary morgue that housed the bodies, and there was a burnt clown doll he found in the rubble. It was a horrible day, and Kelly later said he would never forget it. As it turned out, a chance photograph would immortalize the day forever. As Kelly was making his way with his bucket to put out the fire, a member of the audience named Ralph Emerson snapped a photo. Kelly is in his full clown attire, and the sight of him, with his little bucket, would almost be funny if it weren't for the tragic circumstances. The photo ended up in Life magazine on July 17, 1944. Kelly had to move on, and he did it in a big way. In Los Angeles, Kelly was doing a charity event, but it ended up being a gold mine for him. You see, an agent approached Kelly about working in films, but this was no ordinary agent. He represented none other than producer David O. Selznick, who'd already won an Academy Award for Gone with the Wind. Emmett was now over 50. Was it too late to start a new career in film? Kelly ended up signing a 1-year contract with Selznick. Next, all they had to do was find a movie that suited his skills. There'd been a radio drama called The Fat Man that had an obvious plus because it featured a character that happened to be a clown. This seemed perfect until Kelly realized that he would be playing a murderous villain. Kelly wasn't sure how his fans would feel about their beloved clown playing a villain. What was worse was that the filmmakers wanted him to use his very recognizable Weary Willie makeup. Kelly had to stand up for his fans, so he refused to appear as Weary Willie in The Fat Man. It looked like this would be the end of Kelly's career in Hollywood. The director and producer actually saw Kelly's point and allowed him to appear as a different clown in The Fat Man. Yet, even with stars like Jane Meadows and Rock Hudson, The Fat Man failed to ignite. Even the director, William Castle, said it had little merit. But something good did come out of the experience for Kelly. The Fat Man was Kelly's first film role, and he was up against some seasoned actors. Despite this, Kelly's performance shone. In the New York Times, a critic applauded Kelly's acting and made a prediction. He said that Kelly could be successful in the movie business. Now all Kelly needed was a follow-up film. Emmett was back from Hollywood and working again under the big tent. Cecile B. DeMille, who'd already found fame producing and directing The Ten Commandments, was filming his epic film about circuses called The Greatest Show on Earth. Kelly now had an agent, and he wanted his clown to appear in DeMille's picture. The only problem was that Kelly had a contract to tour with the circus. Kelly and his agent managed to persuade the circus to give him a 15-week break from the tour and shoot his role for The Greatest Show on Earth. Sadly, this wasn't going to get Kelly further in his career as an actor. You see, in The Fat Man, Kelly played out of his clown getup and had actual lines. In this film, Kelly only had one word of dialogue. Now all Kelly had to do was wait and see what DeMille would do for his career. Audiences loved The Greatest Show on Earth, and it ended up becoming the most successful film that Paramount had made up until that point. It also took home more cash than any other film that year and was the top performer in Britain and France. Critics were not as kind, but it didn't matter. Kelly was a part of a hit film. Maybe Kelly was angry about having only one word in The Greatest Show on Earth, because what he did next gave him more words than his entire career. After The Greatest Show on Earth hit theaters, something amazing happened. Kelly decided to speak, a lot. Instead of actually speaking, Kelly turned to writing. This was in his autobiography called Clown, My Life in Tatters and Smiles. Henry Fonda then turned the story into a CBS television special that aired on March 27, 1955. CBS liked what Kelly brought and they were ready to use him again. Since Kelly's life story was on CBS, the studio decided to use him on another one of their shows. This was I've Got a Secret, where a panel tried to guess a guest's secret. Kelly appeared on the show along with an acrobatic group called the Four Whirlwinds. Of course, no one knew what his secret was. Well, he had one, and it was a doozy. The panelists on I've Got a Secret had their work cut out for them. Most people didn't even know Kelly out of makeup, and here he was sitting there on a show with a group of acrobats and a secret. What finally came out was the fact that Kelly was walking down the wedding aisle for the second time. And that doesn't sound like much of a secret. Wait till you hear the details of the wedding. First, Kelly surprised the TV audience by announcing that his wedding was actually the following day. The bride was also a surprise. Evie Gebhardt was sitting right there on stage as one of the members of the group of acrobats. Surprise number 3 was that she was a whopping 36 years younger than him. Emmett was 57 and his 21-year-old bride wanted what most young brides wanted. It didn't take long for Evie to get pregnant, and on November 6th, just 7 months after their wedding, she gave birth. Sadly, Kelly was working and not at the hospital, but 2 photographers took simultaneous pictures as the proud parents talked on the phone shortly after Stasia Kelly was born. Next, Kelly would tackle a sports problem head on. In 1957, the Brooklyn Dodgers baseball team was in trouble. Ticket sales were seriously declining, and they needed a way to revive them. The owner was thinking of moving the team to LA, and the fans were upset. As a last resort, the owner decided to hire Kelly to be a mascot to see if he could help the troubled ball team. All of Brooklyn was counting on Kelly's ability to draw a crowd. While he was working on one of the Brooklyn Dodgers' last games, Kelly missed another delivery. While he was playing mascot, Evie was giving birth to their second daughter, who they named Monica. Kelly now had 2 daughters with Evie, and he had to make up for missing their births by being a good dad. However, there was one thing standing in his way. The traveling life of a clown was hard on the family, so Kelly was looking for a job where he could stay in one place. An opportunity arose when his old friends at CBS decided to build a theme park called Pacific Ocean Park. Working a regular gig at a fixed location was just what Kelly needed to improve his family life. Sadly, things didn't go as planned. Pacific Ocean Park was meant to be in direct competition with Disneyland, and to score points, CBS wanted Kelly as their vice president in charge of fun. It seemed that the XX had forgotten that Kelly was famous for being sad. Kelly did his best, but the park closed in 1967. Once again, Kelly was in search of a job where he could stay put. While continuing to look for a job that would keep him in one place, Kelly met Bill Hara. Hara owned a huge casino situated at the beautiful Lake Tahoe on the border of California and Nevada. Kelly took a job and performed for an astonishing 15 years with big names like Sammy Davis Jr., Ed Sullivan, and Carol Channing. Kelly could have grown old there, but he was still up for new experiences. In 1973, at the age of 74, Kelly tried something new. He appeared in an opera called The Bartered Bride. This was no ordinary opera, as the producer had a name for herself, creating very avant-garde work. One critic said that watching Kelly nibble on cabbage was unforgettable. Next, Kelly moved from the highbrow world of opera to something a little closer to home. While being in the circus had attracted legions of fans, it could not compete with what television brought. Due to his appearances on TV in the 1960s and 70s, Kelly now had even more exposure. He even had a chance to appear with the amazing Bette Midler as she sang Hello in There to a sad-looking Willie. Kelly was getting more and more popular, but he still had time for the circus and more trauma. In the mid-1970s, Kelly was heading to Hawaii to appear in a circus. While still at the airport in Los Angeles, Kelly had a scare. A loud explosion terrified him and the other performers. He then saw smoke and glass flying through the air. Kelly first thought it was a joke, but it later came out that this was a planned explosive in a locker. Kelly survived this, but his days were already numbered. Even after turning 80, Kelly was still working. He was about to start making a film with singer Tony Bennett when tragedy struck. While in his own front yard, Kelly had a heart attack. It was the end for him, and the news quickly spread to all his adoring fans. Maybe it was Carol Burnett who said it best. She called him a truly gentle clown. Kelly was ready to rest in peace, but there was one nagging concern. One thing that probably held Kelly back from resting in peace was his relationship with his son. You see, Emmett Kelly Jr. had done something unforgivable, at least in the clown world. He'd taken the character of Weary Willie and copied it. For this reason, Kelly and his son didn't speak for many years. Luckily, there is one thing that will keep our memories of Kelly positive. In 1989, the International Clown Hall of Fame welcomed Kelly into its ranks. Sometime after that, something bizarre started happening. On the date of Kelly's birthday, December 9th, people started celebrating Weary Willie Day. It's now an annual event in America, and it reminds us not to take our problems so seriously. Emmett Kelly will forever be remembered. If you enjoyed this Factinate video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want a say in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.